Hello, did you know that the Pioneer format has been unalived by Wizards of the Coast? That's right, after 6 years and plenty of ups and downs along the way, Magic the Gathering's youngest officially sanctioned format has been unalived due to neglect, malnourishment, and a broken heart. At least, that's been the prevailing narrative in the Magic the Gathering community after Wizards of the Coast announced the 2026 organized play season. For the second year in a row, WotC has elected to exclude Pioneer from their competitive tournament schedule. There will be no Pioneer Pro Tours, no Pioneer Regional Championships, no Pioneer RCQs, and not even a one-off Pioneer Magic Spotlight Series tournament. As far as competitive play is concerned, Pioneer does not exist. But does that mean the format is actually finished? Is Pioneer, it's been long enough, dead, in the water without any relevancy on the competitive circuit? Some people think yes. In fact, based on what I'm seeing on threads, on the Pioneer subreddit, to commentary videos on YouTube, to posts on all the social media platforms, it seems like the vast majority of players took the decision to exclude Pioneer from the 2026 organized play season as the final nail in the format's coffin. I even asked my head writer, Jessie Robkin, one of Pioneer's most vocal proponents over the years, what she thought of the state of the format. Her first response? Pioneer is dead. And keep in mind, Jessie is as enfranchised as it gets when it comes to Pioneer. In fact, one of the first scripts she pitched for writing for me back in 2022 was an introductory video titled The Pillars of Pioneer, which had the explicit goal of enticing players to play the format. And since then, over those years, in our meetings, I've asked her if Decision X or Decision Y or Decision Z by Wizards of the Coast would be the death of Pioneer. And each time she's told me, no, not really, and then gone on to explain why she believed that there's still hope for the format. So to hear her tell me now, in no uncertain terms, that Pioneer is indeed actually dead, well, let's just say it's not a promising sign. But is the format actually factually dead? How important is competitive play to the health and well-being of a 1v1 metagame, and what can be done between now and whenever WotC decides to feature Pioneer on their competitive circuit again? Will they ever feature it again? All those questions and more are what's in store, so let's talk about the future of Pioneer. And whether it's Pioneer deck lists that you're interested in seeing, or perhaps just modern deck lists, maybe standard, pauper, or just commander deck lists for everything Magic the Gathering deck list related, organizing your card collection related, or just playtesting all of these cool possible decks, there's no better place to do so than Archidekt, sponsor of this video. Archidekt is the best website on the internet for keeping up to date with your Magic collection, from your own cards and decks to those of your entire playgroup. It's an intuitive and powerful deck-building platform that combines the utility of digital record keeping with the visual appeal of physical Magic the Gathering. It's easy to sort the decks you build on Archidekt by mana value, card type, category, or even price. As you're tuning your deck, you can use Archidekt's advanced analytics tools to help you decide what cards to keep, what cards to cut, and what cards you're still testing out. And yeah, you can test out on Archidekt, as it not only provides you with card suggestions and makes it easy to compare multiple decks, but you can even play test decks to get an idea for how well they're constructed and whether or not you actually want to pick up the cards for them. Without a doubt, Archidekt is a phenomenal service for many Magic the Gathering players, so check it out today. Best of all, using Archidekt is completely free. Just create a brand new account at archidekt.com/Tolarian and you can start your Archidekt journey today. Thank you, Archidekt, for sponsoring this video.
Blah 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 blah.
Before we can talk about the state of Pioneer, it's important to make clear just how critical organized play is to a 1v1 constructed format. It's true that, in theory, even if the Pro Tour disappeared overnight, your local game store could continue hosting FNMs and you could keep playing whatever constructed format you like at your kitchen table. But competitive Magic plays a significant role in a format's health and stability. For all that casual players love to brew new decks, the vast majority of real metagame shifts and deck innovations begin at the professional level. competitive Magic incentivizes the best minds in the game to put time and energy into sifting through a format's card pool looking for undiscovered gold. Stress testing and tuning a potential breakout archetype takes a lot of skill and effort, and it's the kind of thing that happens most often when great players are testing for high-stakes tournaments. Team Channel Fireball realized you could put a Vein Ripper into play on turn 3 with Sorin Imperious Bloodlord while testing for Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor back in early 2024. Their Rakdos Vampires deck caught every other pro team totally off guard. Competitive players testing for high-level events in 2023 found decks like 5-color Bring to Light, Izzet Creativity, and Boros Convoke. The overhaul of Abzan Greasefang from a fragile, all-in combo deck to a much more resilient mid-range deck was spearheaded by members of the Pro Team Handshake for Pro Tour Phyrexia. Each of these discoveries had their own ripple effects as players all the way down the competitive ladder adapted to the new or improved archetypes and changed their decks accordingly. These responses then prompted a new wave of adaptation, which then prompted another new wave of adaptation. Deck A becomes the best deck in the format. Deck B then rises to the top off the back of a great matchup against Deck A. This pushes Deck A down a tier, which opens a window for Deck C, which happens to have a great matchup against Deck B, to step in and take over, and so forth and so on. These shifts happen first in the highest level settings, where finding the best deck for a given weekend has real stakes, and then it trickles down to RCQs played at local game stores, which then seeps into Friday Night Magic, Magic Online leagues, the Arena Ladder, and what have you. When you go a long time without any high-level Magic tournament for a given format, that format has a natural tendency to stagnate. The last high-level Pioneer tournaments were the regional championships in the fall of 2024. That cycle of RCs featured innovations like Rakdos Prowess with the mouse package from Bloomborough, Izzet Phoenix with Artist's Talent, and black mid-range decks with Unholy Annex. Shortly after these tournaments, Wizards of the Coast announced the Regional Championship Circuit for 2025. Players noticed immediately a glaring hole in the schedule. There were no high-level Pioneer events scheduled for 2025. Immediately, Pioneer players lamented what this would mean for their favorite format. What would the format look like after a year without any incentive to innovate? Well, it's been a year. Let's take a look at the top Pioneer metagame. Oh, what do you know? The most played decks in the format are a Red Mouse deck, Izzet Phoenix with Artist's Talent, and, say it with me now, black mid-range decks featuring Unholy Annex. Keep in mind that this is after 6 whole sets entered Pioneer. Magic Foundations, Aether Drift, Tarkir Dragonstorm, Final Fantasy, Edge of Eternities, and the other one. An unprecedented 6 new standard sets in 1 year, and yet the top of the Pioneer metagame is virtually unchanged. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been any innovation at all. Boros Hammer Time, featuring Corey Steelcutter and Cloud Midgar Mercenary, is a neat port of the once dominant modern deck into this lower power level format. Simic Scapeshift brings a convoluted kill reminiscent of modern Amulet Titan into Pioneer, and 5-Color Legends is a wild creature combo deck that pairs the Rona Inti Relic of Legends package from last year's standard metagame with a bunch of new legends from Spider-Man, most notably Arachne Psionic Weaver. 2 copies of Arachne with a Relic of Legends in play create infinite ETB triggers as you tap 1 to make a white, then web sling it back to your hand to cast the second one. With a Rona in play, you first generate infinite mana by tapping the Rona to the relic each time, then draw your deck whenever you want to by switching to Rona's loot ability. All 3 of these decks are awesome. They're fresh. They're exactly the thing Pioneer needs and needs regularly, but if a cool new deck appears in a Magic Online deck dump and no one is around to play it, does it even exist? Absent any incentive to stress test these decks the way pro players stress test their deck choices for high-level events, we really have no idea how viable they are. And without a high-profile event to shine a spotlight on a deck, especially a deck that proves its mettle on Magic's biggest stages, the kind of cascading metagame shift down the pyramid of organized play just won't happen, at least not with the same degree of awareness. Let's say you're someone who loves Pioneer, and you love it enough to be keeping tabs with the meager Magic Online metagame during this dark period of no paper Pioneer organized play. You see this 5-color Legends deck and you're fascinated. You want to try it out for yourself. Maybe you jam a league or two on Magic Online, or you fire up the arena to take it for a spin on the Pioneer ladder. Say you like it. No, say you love it. Are you going to buy the deck for yourself in paper? Probably not. I mean, why should you? There are no Pioneer Spotlight Series events, no Pioneer RCQs. I'd bet Pioneer Night at your LGS is rarely firing, if your LGS even bothers to schedule a Pioneer Night at all. Competitive play doesn't just drive metagame development, it also generates excitement. It is aspirational. It creates a reason for more casual players to keep up with what is happening in the format. Pioneer RCQs create local interest in the format, which inspires players to go out and buy that cool new Hammer Time deck or Simic Scapeshift deck. Even after RCQ season is over, now you have all these players who have these cool Pioneer decks they liked playing with, and those players may be hungry for continued weekly Pioneer nights at their local game stores. I remember Jesse and I talking about the decision to leave Pioneer out of the 2025 organized play schedule, and as I had several times before, I asked her if she thought this meant Pioneer was dead. And Jesse, ever the Pioneer optimist and diehard, said, "Well, it's certainly not good news for the format, but I'm not ready to say it's over. It makes sense that WotC would want to push Standard extra hard to coincide with all these other moves to increase Standard engagement. If that means we go 1 year without any Pioneer tournaments, I think that's okay. The format will still be there the next year." Well, Jesse, it's about to be next year. Is the format still here? I guess this episode is her answer. Now, the truth is, Pioneer isn't technically dead, it's merely dying. Every year that passes is another year without oxygen, and enough years without oxygen will inevitably kill the format. Now, theoretically, if WotC decides to include Pioneer in the organized play schedule for 2027, the format would start breathing again. But the time without air would have lasting consequences. It would take time and attention from Wizards to reignite player interest. I doubt Pioneer would get back to where it was before the drop-off in events right away. Players might understandably suspect that the following year of play would once again exclude Pioneer. Only after a few years, maybe even several years, of continuous attention from WotC would things get back to some kind of normal. And if interest was too low after the first year back in the Pioneer saddle, there's simply no chance Wizards would risk another bad RCQ season the following year. But who are we kidding? Pioneer won't be included in the 2027 season? I mean, look, I hope I'm wrong about that, but at this point, I'd be a fool to predict anything else. Why would Wizards schedule a Pioneer season? But I think the better, more insightful question is, why wouldn't they? And there's one big answer to that. In my opinion, the root problem lies in the new standard set release cadence. I know, you can't blame the release cadence for everything, Prof. Watch me. If you've decided to release 7 standard sets in a year, how do you ensure that players buy them all? Well, you make Standard the most important format for organized play. Players will need to keep buying new cards if they want to play the format that's most impacted by new cards. Now, of course, you can't make every RC season Standard. Players are going to need a break of some kind. So, what is the next best format to have players play? Why, it's the format that features the immensely financially successful Modern Horizons series, of course. Pioneer was initially conceived of as a way to give players a place to play with Standard cards after they rotated out of Standard in a post-Modern Horizons world. This is because, thanks to Modern Horizons, it had become a lot harder for Standard cards to find homes in Modern. And honestly, this was a really good decision. But look at where we are now. Standard now has a 3-year rotation. After 2 more years of this breakneck release pace, there will be a minimum of 20 sets in Standard. 6 from 2025, 7 from 2026, 6 from 2027, and Magic Foundations. 20 sets in Standard to Put that in perspective, back when Standard had a 2-year rotation and there were 4 sets in a year, 8 sets was the most that could ever be legal in Standard. Back in those days, 8-set Standard was a noteworthy period of 3 months out of every year that featured some of the more broken decks Standard was capable of producing. Cards from the newest set in Standard commingled with cards that were mere months away from rotating out. This made for extremely powerful flash-in-the-pan synergies that only survived banning because of the cards' limited legality together. A great example of this is when Field of the Dead from M20 joined Scapeshift from M19 and proceeded to dominate the format for the brief 3-month window of their shared legality. But these days, 8-set Standard isn't just common, it's consistent. When a year's worth of sets rotate out, they leave behind 2 years' worth of sets, plus the first set from the new year, plus foundations. That's 11 or 12 sets that remain Standard legal at a minimum. The minimum card pool of Standard is very nearly twice the size of the card pool back when Standard was in that 3-month period of an unsustainable 8-set cap. But let's zoom out even further. By the end of 2027, we'll have 20 sets in Standard, right? Okay, well, when Pioneer was announced in 2019, there were 29 sets legal in the format. Return to Ravnica through Throne of Eldraine. In other words, maximum set Standard in the current system is almost the size of what Pioneer was back when Pioneer was first introduced to the game. It's no wonder they no longer feel that Pioneer needs any attention from organized play, because by the time a card rotates out of Standard, many Magic the Gathering players are going to be sick of it. Those who aren't, well, they can still play Pioneer on Magic Online or Magic Arena. The final point I want to make about the state of the game in this new era of oversaturated Standard set releases is the effect that so many new products must surely have on the brilliant folks who work in Magic game design. Ask yourself this: did Wizards of the Coast increase the size of the play design team by 50% when they increased the set release cadence by that much? There's no way to know, but I really doubt it. That would have cost, money, and they don't like to spend that. I would be willing to bet that the talented, hardworking people working on new card designs are stretched to their absolute capacity in this current setting. And remember, these are the folks that are also the ones responsible for monitoring the health of a format, deciding what needs to be banned, when, and keeping up with the shifts happening both on the competitive circuits and on Magic's online platforms. That's all additional work on top of the spike in set releases, and they have to do that for every single constructed format. The less attention you can give each new set, the more likely that there will be broken cards that you miss. The less attention that you can spare each constructed format, the more likely it is that those formats will languish under toxic or stale meta games. And if there was suddenly some major tournament for a neglected format like Pioneer, you might find there's suddenly some maintenance required to fix whatever it is the pros discovered was broken. It would make sense that if WotC play design is stretched thin, which I believe would be very understandable were it to be true, that there would be strong incentives for Wizards to de-emphasize all but their most important formats. In the case of 1v1 constructed formats, that just means Standard and Modern. So is Pioneer officially dead? Well, no, not exactly, because regardless of whether WotC ever schedules another Pioneer RCQ season again, they're never going to actually say, hey, everyone stop playing Pioneer. They're not going to take Pioneer off of Arena or Magic Online. I mean, they just put a lot of work into getting, well, not Pioneer, but Pioneer on Magic Arena, after all. Got a whole video on that you can watch. No. What is happening to Pioneer is the same thing that happened years ago to Legacy. Legacy no longer gets any attention from WotC when it comes to organized play. Is Legacy dead? Well, I mean, kind of. The only WotC-sponsored paper Legacy tournaments that happen anymore are during Eternal Weekend. Beyond that, paper Legacy tournaments exist only when independent tournament organizers schedule them, which is rarely, but not never. People still play Legacy. People will probably never stop playing Legacy, but there are far fewer places to play Legacy in paper than Legacy players surely wish there were. The same will remain true for Pioneer. possibly forever. But Pioneer has a disadvantage compared to Legacy on this front. Legacy has the benefit of being the only constructed format where people who own original dual lands can play with them. It's the only constructed home for Force of Will, Wasteland, and Reanimate. Dark Depths, Ancient Tomb, Gaia's Cradle. There are no other constructed formats where you can play with these cards. But Pioneer doesn't really have an equivalent identity, at least not to the same extent. Sure, it's the only place you can play with Treasure Cruise. That's something, I guess. But beyond that, and in the strictest sense, what does Pioneer offer that you can't find in either Big Standard or Modern Horizons Modern? I like Pioneer, and obviously our head writer, Jesse Robkin, loves Pioneer. A lot of players enjoy there being a non-rotating format that is not defined by fetch lands, where cards from older but not ancient standard formats like Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Arc-like Phoenix, and Witch's Oven are all viable build-around cards. But as that appeal is not enough to make WotC support Pioneer directly with organized play, the format is at a real crossroads in the coming year. If there is not a groundswell of player-driven interest in Pioneer, of players hopping into the Arena Pioneer ladder, of going to their local game stores or their favorite independent tournament organizers and asking en masse for sanctioned Pioneer events, well, without all that, I think the fate of Pioneer will be much, much worse than the fate of Legacy. The fate of Pioneer, it's gonna be, do you remember Paper Brawl? Not Arena Brawl, but actual Paper Brawl? Remember that, kids? Exactly. But of course, those are just my thoughts and opinions, and now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the future of Pioneer? Is the format truly unalive, or is there a chance at some rebirth? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, of course, to check out Archidekt for all of your deck building needs, whether it is Pioneer, Modern, Commander, or Pauper. Just go to archidekt.com/Tolarian and create your free account today. You can begin organizing your collections. You can even playtest deck lists that you create or that your friends share. Every single deck list from every single episode of Shuffle Up and Play is on Archidekt, and so you can playtest with the very decks we shuffle up and play with. So check out Archidekt today, and thank you for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
What's up? It's Shuffle Up and Play, and today we have balanced our decks against a medium deck.
Mid? Did they call it? I think the kids call it mid.
But okay, off.
Your deck was bonkers, crazy, powerful.
They replaced a couple cards.
And how many was that?
20? 20! I have a really easy turn one, a Gloom Lake Verge land.
Draw for turn.
And then I'm gonna draw for turn.
This is what I assume your lives are usually like. As influencers.
You're an influencer!
You're an influencer!
I'm gonna tell you this, that's what you do!
Death Cap Glade.
Is that a no cap? What's the, it's cap, yeah, cap, cap.
I want to attack, but I don't think anybody's naked. You got a 4/4 froggy.
Can't be naked.
What? Is this a common vibe?
Sometimes I say things and I
You're
don't know
good.
why.